The world stopped for 6 days, not because of war, not because of a disaster, but because a single ship blocked the flow of global trade.
7% of the world's oil trade goes through the Suez Canal, and it can't. Any ship has the choice of taking the longer route round the south of Africa. Takes around 2 weeks longer, obviously costs more because of the additional shipping costs. So ships are having to make that decision. Do they wait in that queue of 300, or do they take the longer?
On March 23rd, 2021, the Ever Given, a nearly 400-meter-long container ship, ran aground in the Suez Canal. This wasn't just another maritime mishap. It was a crisis that sent shockwaves through economies, exposed weaknesses in global trade, and left businesses scrambling for alternatives.
Efforts continue to dislodge a massive container ship longer than the Eiffel Tower, stuck in the Suez Canal and causing a logjam in one of the world's most crucial waterways. A salvage team is due to arrive in Egypt on Thursday to dislodge the Ever Given after work was earlier suspended. The Suez Canal Authority hasn't indicated when traffic may resume. About 12% of global trade goes through the waterway.
The ship, operated by Evergreen Marine, was on its way from Malaysia to the Netherlands when it entered the narrow waterway of the Suez Canal. Then came the storm. Strong winds and a sudden dust storm made navigation difficult. Within moments, the massive vessel veered off course. The bow slammed into one bank. The stern drifted toward the other. The entire canal was blocked. Behind it, 15 ships came to a halt. Within hours, the traffic jam stretched to over 200 vessels. Oil tankers, cargo ships, and bulk carriers were stuck, waiting for a solution. The world watched in disbelief. The Suez Canal, handling nearly 12% of global trade, was frozen. Each passing hour meant billions lost.
Coming out of Syria is deeply, deeply worrying. The country was already hitting crisis point with the economic collapse hitting Syria and the daily lives of Syrians. And now these delays to fuel shipments will make an already bad situation worse.
Attempts to free the ship began immediately. Tugboats strained against its weight. Excavators dug at the bank. Engineers scrambled for solutions, but the Ever Given didn't move. Shipping companies panicked. Some rerouted their vessels around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, adding thousands of miles in weeks of delay. The cost of goods began to rise. Supply chains buckled. Every industry felt the impact. Then came the financial battle. As soon as the ship was freed on March 29th, Egyptian authorities seized it. The Suez Canal Authority demanded $900 million in compensation, later reducing it to around $600 million. For months, the ship remained in legal limbo at the Great Bitter Lake. Not until July 4th did an agreement allow it to leave. By then, the damage was done. The economic toll was staggering. Experts estimated global losses at $10 billion per day during the blockage. The aftermath saw lawsuits, insurance claims, and compensation disputes. Maersk, one of the world's biggest shipping companies, later sued the ship's owners, operator, and technical manager for losses suffered during the 6-day shutdown. The cause? Investigations pointed to multiple factors. Extreme weather was an obvious culprit, with winds reaching 50 kilometers per hour. But questions remained. Was the ship traveling too fast? Should it have entered the canal despite the conditions? Human error was suspected, but never officially proven. The debate continues. One thing was certain: changes had to be made. The SCA wasted no time. Plans to expand the southern section of the canal moved forward. By widening and deepening the waterway, officials hoped to prevent another Ever Given scenario. The project aimed to improve navigation by 28%, a necessary step after such a global crisis. The Ever Given disaster was more than a shipping incident. It was a wake-up call. The modern world relies on seamless trade, but one mishap in a narrow waterway proved how fragile that system is. In an era of just-in-time deliveries, companies face the reality that a single point of failure could send shockwaves across the planet. 6 days, one ship, billions in losses, and a lesson the world won't forget. It wasn't just a shipping crisis, it was a wake-up call, a reminder of how fragile the world's supply chains truly are. Nearly $10 billion worth of goods delayed each day. More than 400 ships stuck at both ends of the canal. a ripple effect that shook supply chains across the world. Ports from Rotterdam to Shanghai braced for congestion. Factories waited for raw materials. Retailers watched their inventory shrink. Every extra day the ship remained stuck sent shockwaves through industries. Yet once the ship was freed, the world quickly moved on. Governments, businesses, and consumers learned nothing, or worse, ignored the warning signs entirely. Now the Ever Given is repaired. It left a Chinese port after undergoing extensive fixes, but its brief moment of crisis exposed the fragility of global trade. The modern economy relies on efficiency, on just-in-time delivery systems that leave no room for error. When everything works smoothly, it's a marvel of logistics. But when something goes wrong, the consequences are brutal, and there's often no backup plan. What happened in the Suez Canal wasn't just a random accident, it was a preview of what could happen on an even larger scale. The Suez Canal is one of the world's most important choke points. About 15% of global maritime trade passes through its waters. There is no easy alternative.
We are talking about a very accurate navigation. It's like a brain surgery. The beam of the boat is 50 meters. Means you have 25 meters to play with.
So there was no wiggle room?
No, not at all.
Ships too large for the canal must take the long way around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, adding thousands of miles and millions in extra costs. The cost of fuel alone skyrockets and delays ripple across industries. When the Ever Given blocked the passage, it wasn't just one ship in trouble, it was a reminder that the world's trade routes are dangerously vulnerable, and the Suez Canal is just one weak point in a system filled with them. What happens when the next disruption occurs? The Suez Canal connects the Mediterranean to the Red Sea, cutting travel time between Europe and Asia. Without it, ships must sail around Africa, adding weeks to their journey. But this canal is narrow, heavily trafficked, and vulnerable to accidents. Political tensions, sabotage, or even another stranded ship could bring trade to a grinding halt again. Now shift focus to the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow passage between Oman and Iran is the world's most critical oil choke point. Nearly 30% of all seaborne oil flows through these waters. It is the lifeline of energy supply, yet it sits in one of the most volatile regions on Earth. Tensions flare, warships lurk, and even a minor conflict could send oil prices skyrocketing, shaking economies worldwide. Beyond the sea, beneath the waves, lies a hidden network. Undersea fiber optic cables are the backbone of the internet. They enable financial transactions, global communication, and international trade. Cut one, and billions could lose access to banking, markets, and even emergency services. Natural disasters, sabotage, or cyber attacks could cripple the digital economy in seconds. The world moves at the speed of data, but that speed is only as reliable as the cables beneath the ocean. On land, another fragile empire exists: semiconductors. These tiny chips power everything from smartphones to military systems. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, produces over half the world's supply. If a natural disaster strikes Taiwan or geopolitical tensions escalate, the world could face a semiconductor drought. Factories would shut down, tech industries would stall, and economies would falter. But even with ships, oil, data, and semiconductors in place, how does the world navigate? GPS. Satellites orbiting above provide precise location data that industries rely on: aviation, logistics, agriculture, even defense. But these satellites are vulnerable. Solar flares, cyber attacks, or direct attacks from rival nations could disrupt GPS services. Without GPS, transportation halts, supply chains break, and military operations weaken. The modern world depends on an invisible thread that is easier to cut than most realize. Then there's the Malacca Strait, a narrow passage linking the Indian and Pacific Oceans. This route carries a massive share of global trade, especially oil and manufactured goods. But with piracy, territorial disputes, and environmental hazards, it remains a high-risk zone. A single blockade here could delay shipments worldwide, sending shockwaves through supply chains. The vulnerabilities do not stop at transportation. The minerals that fuel modern technology are concentrated in unstable regions. Cobalt from the Democratic Republic of Congo, copper from Chile, These are irreplaceable in the shift to clean energy. But political instability, labor strikes, or environmental restrictions could cut off supply, delaying advancements and increasing costs for everything from electric vehicles to renewable energy projects. Then there are the financial hubs, New York, London, Hong Kong. These cities process trillions of dollars daily, their networks intertwined through undersea cables and massive data centers. A cyber attack or a catastrophic failure could send financial markets into chaos. The entire global economy hinges on digital infrastructure that is not as invincible as many assume. Energy dependence extends beyond oil. Gas pipelines like Nord Stream and Yamal Europe transport critical supplies to energy-hungry regions. Sabotage or political interference can send prices soaring, leaving countries scrambling to keep homes warm in winter. The recent European energy crisis proved just how vulnerable these networks are. Finally, the clean energy revolution is at the mercy of a single nation, China. The country dominates rare earth element production and clean technology manufacturing. From solar panels to wind turbines, China controls the supply. If geopolitical tensions escalate or trade restrictions tighten, the world's transition to renewable energy could stall, setting back climate goals and raising the cost of green technology. A natural disaster, a war, or even a major cyber attack on shipping infrastructure could cause as much damage as a physical blockade. The world saw the warning with the Ever Given, but the next crisis may not be as temporary or as easily resolved. The real issue isn't just about ships getting stuck. It's about how dangerously dependent modern civilization is on a fragile, interwoven supply network. The Ever Given was a symptom of a deeper problem. Ships are getting bigger. Some now carry more than 24,000 containers. The ports, canals, and infrastructure that support them have struggled to keep up. A single failure, mechanical or human, can disrupt entire industries. A delay in delivering crucial components can halt production lines. A shipment stuck at sea can leave store shelves empty. The pandemic already exposed supply chain weaknesses, and the Ever Given incident only made them more obvious. On the other hand, ships are getting bigger. The demand for global trade has pushed the shipping industry to build massive container ships that can carry more goods at once. The problem? Many of the world's key waterways, like the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal, and the Strait of Hormuz, were not designed for ships of this size. When a ship that is over 1,300 feet long and weighs hundreds of thousands of tons runs into trouble, maneuvering it is not easy. One wrong move, bad weather, or even mechanical failure could lead to another major blockage. Droughts and extreme weather events are already affecting global shipping routes. The Panama Canal, for example, has been dealing with record-low water levels due to droughts, forcing authorities to limit the number of ships passing through. Less water means less buoyancy, making it even harder for larger ships to navigate safely. If water levels continue to drop, traffic jams at these critical choke points will only become more common. Storms and high winds are another major threat. The Ever Given got stuck partly because of strong winds pushing it off course. With climate change making extreme weather more frequent, the odds of another similar incident are only going up. Technology has improved navigation, but human error is still a big factor. Pilots and crews operating massive vessels must make split-second decisions, and even a small mistake can have disastrous consequences. A miscalculation in steering, a delayed response, or miscommunication between crew members can lead to a ship running aground. Then there's geopolitics. Many of these choke points sit in politically unstable regions. The Strait of Hormuz, which sees nearly a third of the world's oil shipments, is constantly at risk due to tensions in the Middle East. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a key route for ships traveling between Europe and Asia, is also vulnerable due to ongoing conflicts in Yemen. If a ship were to be attacked, or even deliberately sunk in these narrow waterways, global trade could be thrown into chaos. Every time a major shipping route is blocked, it costs the global economy billions. Supply chains are still recovering from disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, and another major shipping blockage could send shockwaves through industries worldwide. Delayed shipments mean higher costs, shortages of essential goods, and inflationary pressures that hurt businesses and consumers alike. The shipping industry and governments are aware of the risks, But solutions aren't easy. Widening canals or building alternative routes takes time and enormous amounts of money. Advanced navigation technology and better training for ship crews can help reduce risks, but they can't eliminate human error or extreme weather. Some companies are even considering alternative shipping routes, such as sailing around Africa instead of using the Suez Canal, but that adds significant time and cost to shipments. Another major shipping crisis is not a question of if, but when. As ships grow larger, weather conditions worsen, and political tensions remain high, the likelihood of a vessel getting stuck at a critical choke point increases. The world depends on these trade routes, and any disruption can have severe economic consequences. The shipping industry must prepare for the inevitable, because when the next big ship gets stuck, the whole world will feel it. History shows these narrow passages have always been battlegrounds, strategic prizes fought over by empires. The Suez, once under British and French control, became the flashpoint of the 1956 Suez Crisis when Egypt nationalized it. Wars have been fought to control such routes, and today the battle continues in different forms: political influence, economic leverage, and military presence. But times have changed. Today, control is not just about flags and warships. It's about influence, partnerships, and economic dependency. A single ship stuck in a canal can trigger a crisis. Piracy in the Bab el-Mandeb can shake oil markets. Tensions in the South China Sea can send ripples across supply chains. So what happens when another ship gets stuck? What if an accident, an attack, or a natural disaster blocks one of these arteries? The consequences could be far worse than a week-long meme fest. The world's reliance on these choke points is both a strength and a weakness. One small mishap can bring giants to their knees. And as ships grow larger, as trade volumes surge, the question is not if another blockage will happen, but when. So, what did the world do after the Ever Given incident? The Suez Canal Authority worked to widen the canal in some sections, but the core problem remains. Shipping companies continue building larger vessels to maximize efficiency, even though they pose greater risks in narrow waterways. Governments talk about supply chain resilience, yet global trade still operates on razor-thin margins. There is little room for error, and when mistakes happen, the consequences are swift and severe. The truth is, the Ever Given's grounding was an opportunity to rethink how global trade is managed, to create contingency plans, to reassess the risks of an over-reliance on just-in-time logistics. But instead of reform, the world chose to move on. The ship was freed, the goods were delivered, and business continued as usual. Until the next time. And make no mistake, there will be a next time. The question is, will we be ready when it happens? What do you think? Are we prepared for the next Ever Given, or are we sleepwalking into another catastrophe? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this video interesting, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into global events. See you in the next one.